"Please, take them off," she said. And when the rancher opened the sack, what he saw left him WWL. The ranch sat where the desert began, a lonely patch of green held together by hard work and stubborn hope. A thin creek ran behind the corral, and beyond it the land stretched into dry hills that looked like sleeping animals under the sun. Most people in the nearest town said there was nothing out here worth guarding. The rancher, Cole Mercer, never argued with them. He just kept fixing fences, watering stock, and living a life that stayed quiet on purpose. Cole was not a man who liked crowds. He did his trading in town once a week, spoke only when he needed to, and returned before sunset. Folks knew him as steady and polite, the kind of man who tipped his hat and kept his eyes on the road. Some thought he was proud. Some thought he was hiding something. Cole didn't care what they thought. Out here, the land didn't ask questions. That evening started like any other. He finished feeding the horses, checked the water barrels, and walked the perimeter fence with his old rifle resting easy in his hands. Not because he expected trouble, but because the desert could surprise you. Coyotes, thieves, rattlers, anything could slip in if you got lazy. The sun was low when he noticed it, a dust trail where there shouldn't be one. Cole stopped on the ridge near his gate and narrowed his eyes. The trail moved fast, too fast for a wagon, a rider maybe. Or someone pushing a horse hard. The dust followed them like a tail. He waited, still as a post, until the figure came close enough to see. It was a woman on horseback, leaning forward as if she might fall at any moment. Her hair was dark and tangled, her clothes dusty and torn at the edges. The horse looked exhausted, foam at its mouth, legs trembling under the weight of the final stretch. Cole swung the gate open and stepped aside, keeping his stance calm. The rider reached the gate and tried to pull the reins, but her hands shook too much. The horse stumbled through, and the woman slipped sideways. Cole caught her before she hit the ground. She was lighter than she looked, like a person who hadn't eaten right in days. Her skin was warm, her breath shallow. She blinked up at him, eyes wide and shining with fear. "Water," she whispered. Cole eased her down onto the packed dirt, propping her against a fence post. He grabbed his canteen and held it to her lips. She drank greedily, then coughed and turned her face away, trying to speak again. Her gaze darted behind her toward the desert. The way she looked made Cole's neck go tight. Not like she was afraid of the desert itself, like she was afraid of something inside it. She reached out with a shaking hand and grabbed the cuff of his shirt. Her fingers were cold and tight like a trap. "Please," she said, voice cracking, "take them off." Cole frowned. "Take what off?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes rolled to the back of the horse. There, tied behind the saddle, hung a burlap sack, heavy, lumpy, and tied with a rope that had been knotted again and again as if someone had been in a hurry. The woman swallowed and forced the words out. "The sack! Don't leave it!" Cole looked from her to the sack. "What's in it?" Her mouth opened, but all that came out was a weak breath. Then she managed a whisper. "If they find it, they'll take everything." Cole had heard desperate talk before. People running from lawmen, from debt collectors, from bad families. Desperation always sounded big, but something about this woman's fear felt different. It wasn't just panic. It was urgent, focused, like she knew exactly what was coming. He stood and walked to the horse. The animal's eyes were dull with fatigue. Cole patted its neck, murmuring soft, calming words, then unhooked the sack. It was heavier than he expected, not rocks heavy, more like metal heavy. He carried it to the porch where the light still held and set it down. The woman pushed herself up, half crawling, half stumbling closer. "Please," she repeated, "take them off." Cole untied the rope. The knot loosened and the mouth of the sack fell open. At first, he saw only shadow. Then he reached in and his fingers touched something cool and smooth, not like wood or cloth. He pulled it out slowly. It was a device, about the size of a thick book, shaped in clean lines and curves that looked too perfect for any blacksmith's hand. Its surface was a dark silver metal that caught the fading light and threw it back like water. Strange markings ran along one edge, symbols that looked carved but also layered like they had depth. Cole stared, blinking once, then twice. He pulled out another, then another. 3 objects, each different, but all made of the same strange metal. One was a flat ring with a hollow center and a faint blue line pulsing inside it, like a trapped heartbeat. Another was a small cylinder with grooves that felt warm under his palm. The third looked like a thin plate with a raised pattern that shifted when he changed the angle of it, as if it wasn't fully solid. Cole set them down carefully, like they might bite him. "This ain't from around here," he muttered. The woman leaned against the porch post, breathing hard. No, Cole kept his voice low. Are you saying these are science things from the city, from those rail men? She gave a weak shake of her head. Not the city. Cole looked at her more closely now. Her boots were worn frontier boots, but her belt buckle had the same strange markings as the device. And when she shifted, he saw something under her sleeve, thin bands around her wrist like bracelets. But they weren't jewelry. They were fitted too tight, like they were meant to stay. What are you? Cole asked, careful not to sound accusing. Her eyes lifted to his, full of exhaustion and stubborn courage. Someone who made a mistake trusting the wrong people. The wind moved through the yard, lifting dust along the fence line. The horses in the corral snorted and shifted. The air felt like it had changed, like the day was holding its breath. Cole looked out at the horizon. The sun was almost gone. The sky was turning purple at the edges. Then he saw it. A faint light far away, moving in a straight line. Too steady for a star, too low for a normal thing in the sky. Cole stiffened. The woman saw his face change and turned her head. The moment she saw the light, her body tensed like a rope pulled tight. "They're here," she whispered. Cole watched as the light split into two, then three, then more, like sparks breaking off from a larger flame. They drifted apart, spreading out over the desert. "What are they?" Cole asked. "Searchers," she said. "Eyes that don't blink." Cole didn't like the sound of that. He didn't like the feeling in his gut either. He had lived long enough to trust that feeling. He grabbed the devices and shoved them back into the sack. The moment his hands touched the flat ring, it pulsed brighter as if it recognized warmth. Cole flinched and yanked his hand away, but the glow faded again, returning to a faint line under the metal. The woman took a step toward him, swaying. "Don't let them see it," she said. "Hide it." Cole didn't ask why. There were times to ask and times to act. This felt like the second kind. He lifted the sack and walked fast toward the barn. The woman followed, using the fence and porch rail to keep herself upright. Her horse stumbled toward the water trough as if it knew where safety was. Cole opened the barn doors and stepped inside. The barn smelled of hay and old leather, familiar and solid. He walked to the back where a loose plank covered a shallow storage pit he used for grain when the weather got rough. He pulled the plank up, dropped the sack into the pit, and covered it again. Then he tossed loose hay over the spot until it looked like any other part of the barn floor. When he turned, the woman stood just inside the door, eyes scanning every shadow as if she expected something to jump out. "You can rest in the loft," Cole said. "It's dry and hidden." She swallowed. "I can't sleep." "You can sit then," he replied, "but you can't stand out there in the open." For a moment she looked like she might argue, then her knees buckled slightly and she grabbed the door frame. Cole moved forward and steadied her. "Easy." Her breath trembled. "They'll come," she said. "They always come." Cole guided her to a hay bale and sat her down. "Who are you running from?" Her fingers curled in her lap. "People who don't live by the same rules you do." Cole leaned back, listening. Outside, the desert wind sounded normal, but that distant hum, barely there, seemed to rise and fall like something circling overhead. "Tell me your name," he said. She hesitated, then spoke. "Mara." Cole nodded. "All right, Mara, I'm Cole." Her eyes flicked to his rifle. "You won't win in a straight fight." Cole followed her gaze. "I'm not aiming for a straight fight." She looked at him, surprised. Cole glanced up at the gap between barn boards where the last light of day slipped through. The moving lights in the sky were closer now, still far, but no longer just specks. He kept his voice even. "You came to my gate for a reason. Either you knew this place or you didn't have anywhere else. Either way, you're here now." Mara's shoulders rose with a shaky breath. "I didn't mean to bring danger." Cole's jaw tightened, but he didn't blame her. The desert brought danger on its own. People just added to it. He stepped to the barn door and peered outside. The yard looked the same, fence, trough, corral, the outline of his house. But the air felt tense like before a storm. From the horizon, one of the lights dipped lower. And when it did, the horses in the corral panicked, backing away from the fence and stamping the ground. Cole watched, eyes narrowed. Whatever was out there, it wasn't a normal rider. It wasn't a wagon, it wasn't even a posse. It was something new. He closed the barn door slowly, not slamming it, not making noise. He slid the wooden bar into place. Then he turned back to Mara. "You said take them off." "What did you mean?" Mara's eyes dropped to her wrists. The thin bands under her sleeve caught the light. She pulled the fabric back enough for Cole to see them clearly. They weren't bracelets. They were cuffs, smooth metal rings sealed tight with tiny markings like the ones on the devices. There was no visible lock, no seam. They looked like they had grown around her. "They put these on me," she said quietly, "so they can find me so I can't disappear." Cole's stomach sank. "And the sack," Mara swallowed hard, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "That's the only thing I have that can break them." Cole stared at her wrists, then toward the hidden sack under the hay. Outside, the sky darkened, but the distant lights did not fade. They moved with purpose. Cole took a slow breath and made a choice without saying it out loud. He wasn't going to hand her over. He wasn't going to run and leave his home, either. He was going to stand his ground, like a rancher did when a storm came in fast and angry. "All right," he said, voice steady. "Then we do this smart, we keep quiet, we stay hidden, and when the time is right." He paused, listening to the faint hum growing closer. "We take those cuffs off." Inside the barn, the air smelled of hay and warm wood, but the silence felt tense, as if even the walls were listening. Cole stood near the door, watching through a narrow crack between the boards. The lights in the sky moved slowly, gliding without sound. They weren't like lanterns or stars. They hovered, paused, then shifted direction with perfect control. Mara sat on a hay bale, her hands gripping the edge so tightly her knuckles turned pale. The metal cuffs around her wrists reflected faint blue lines that flickered every few seconds. "They're scanning," she whispered. Cole didn't turn around. "Scanning for what? For me, for the devices, for anything that doesn't belong." Cole exhaled slowly. He had seen storms coming across the plains before, dark clouds rolling closer until the air turned electric. This felt the same, except the storm wasn't made of wind or rain. One of the lights dipped lower, sending a pale beam across the desert. It moved slowly over the ground like a searching eye. The horses in the corral shifted nervously, stomping and snorting. Cole stepped away from the door. "We can't let them see movement." Myra nodded, though her eyes stayed fixed on the wall as if she could see through it. "They'll check heat signatures, too." Cole frowned slightly. "Heat what?" She hesitated, trying to find simple words. "They look for living bodies, warm things," he nodded once. "Then we keep still." Minutes passed slowly. The barn creaked softly as the wind brushed against it. Outside, the faint hum grew louder, then faded, then returned again. The searchers were circling. Cole grabbed an old lantern but didn't light it. Instead, he moved closer to Mara and crouched beside her. "You said the sack can remove those cuffs," he said quietly. "Yes." "And after that," she swallowed, "after that I won't be easy to track." Cole leaned back slightly, considering. "Then we do that first chance we get." Mara looked at him, surprise crossing her face. "You believe me?" Cole shrugged lightly. "I believe what I saw. And I believe you're scared for a reason." She lowered her gaze, something softer appearing in her expression, relief mixed with disbelief. Outside, a sudden flash of light crossed the barn wall, and both of them froze. The beam moved slowly across the boards, then paused near the door. Myra's breath caught. Cole stayed perfectly still, every muscle tight. The beam lingered for several seconds before sliding away. The hum faded as the light rose higher into the sky again. Only then did Cole let out a slow breath. "They're looking but not sure," he said. "For now," she replied. Silence returned, but it felt thinner now, fragile. Cole stood and walked toward the hidden pit under the hay. He paused, listening once more, then pushed the loose plank aside. He lifted the sack carefully and carried it toward Mara. "Show me," he said. Her hands trembled as she reached inside and pulled out the flat ring device. Up close, Cole could see faint lines moving under the metal surface, like energy flowing beneath water. "This is a key," she explained softly. "Not for locks, for systems." Cole nodded slowly, though he only understood part of it. Myra held the ring over her wrist. The blue line inside the ring brightened, reacting to the cuffs. A soft humming sound filled the air. The cuffs responded instantly, glowing with the same color. Cole watched carefully, ready to stop if anything looked dangerous. Myra gritted her teeth as the glow intensified. "It may hurt," she whispered. The ring pulsed and a faint clicking sound came from the cuffs. For a moment nothing happened, then one cuff shifted slightly, separating at an invisible seam. Myra gasped. Cole leaned closer. "Is it working?" "Yes, almost." Suddenly, a loud metallic noise echoed outside, a sharp clang like something landing near the corral. Both of them froze. The ring flickered and dimmed as Mara's concentration broke. "They found us," she whispered. Cole moved quickly, placing the devices back into the sack and covering them with cloth. He grabbed his rifle and stepped toward the door. "You stay here," he said quietly. "No," she replied, standing despite her weakness. "I can help." Cole shook his head. You can barely stand. I know their patterns, she insisted. You don't. He hesitated for only a second, then nodded. Stay behind me. They slipped outside carefully. The night air felt colder now, heavy with tension. The moonlight revealed a small hovering machine near the corral, round, metallic, glowing faintly as it scanned the ground. The horses backed away, ears flat against their heads. That's one of them, Mara whispered. A scout. Cole watched it silently. It moved slowly, turning side to side as if searching. What does it do? He asked. It marks targets, she said. Others follow. Cole didn't wait longer. He picked up a rock from the ground and tossed it far across the yard. The rock hit the fence with a loud crack. Instantly, the machine turned toward the sound, drifting away from the barn. Move, Cole said. They circled around, keeping low behind stacked barrels and fence posts. Mara watched the machine carefully, guiding him with quiet gestures. Cole grabbed a long rope hanging near the corral gate. As the machine drifted closer to the fence, he swung the rope and caught it around the hovering body. The machine jerked, lights flashing rapidly. Cole pulled hard, dragging it down toward the ground. It struggled, humming louder, but the rope tangled around its frame. Myra rushed forward and placed the ring device against it. The ring glowed bright blue, and the machine's lights flickered wildly before going dark. The hum stopped. Silence returned. Myra stepped back, breathing hard. It's disabled, but only for now. Cole nodded. Then we don't stay here. He looked toward the sky. The distant lights were moving faster now, converging toward the ranch. They know something's wrong, Myra said. Cole grabbed her arm gently. Inside, we finished removing those cuffs. They hurried back into the barn. The air felt tighter now, as if time was running out. Myra sat again, holding her wrist steady. She activated the ring once more. The glow returned, stronger than before. The cuff clicked louder this time, separating slightly. A final pulse of light ran through it. The metal band split open and fell into her hand. Myra stared at it, stunned. One cuff remained, but she smiled faintly. Half free. Cole allowed himself a small nod. That's progress. Outside, the sound of engines grew louder, deeper, and heavier than before. They're coming, she said. Cole walked to the barn door again, watching as multiple lights descended slowly toward the desert floor. He turned back to her, calm despite the danger. Then we don't wait for them to surround us. What do you mean? She asked. Cole's eyes hardened with determination. I know these canyons better than anyone. If we leave now, we might disappear before they lock onto us. Mara hesitated. You'd leave your ranch. Cole glanced around at the barn, at the horses, the tools, the life he had built piece by piece. For a moment, sadness crossed his face. Then he looked back at her. A ranch can be rebuilt. A life can't. Mara's expression softened, filled with gratitude. The engines outside roared closer. Cole grabbed a saddle and began preparing 2 horses quickly. We ride light, he said. No extra weight. Mara held the ring tightly, determination replacing fear in her eyes. As the first beam of searching light crossed the barn wall again, they mounted the horses and prepared to leave. Cole opened the back gate quietly. The desert waited beyond, dark, endless, and full of danger. Without looking back, the rancher and the stranger rode into the night, chasing the only thing stronger than fear. Hope. The desert stretched endlessly under the moonlight as Cole and Mara rode hard across the open land. The sound of hooves against packed sand echoed into the night, mixing with the distant hum of machines searching behind them. Cold air rushed past their faces, carrying dust and the scent of dry earth. Cole leaned forward slightly, guiding his horse through narrow paths only someone familiar with the land would know. He didn't look back often. He didn't need to. The faint glow behind them told him enough. They were still being followed. Myra held tightly to the saddle, her body still weak but her eyes sharp and alert. One cuff had been removed, but the other remained sealed around her wrist, glowing faintly whenever the lights behind them moved closer. They're adjusting, she said between breaths. Learning your roots, Cole nodded once. Then we stopped being predictable. He pulled the reins slightly, turning toward a rocky ridge that rose from the desert like a broken wall. Most riders avoided it because the paths were narrow and dangerous, but Cole knew every twist and turn. They rode into the canyon just as one of the lights dipped low behind them, casting a bright beam across the sand where they had been seconds earlier. Mara glanced back. That was close. Cole didn't answer. He focused on guiding the horse through the tight passage. The canyon walls rose high around them, blocking much of the sky. The hum of the machines became muffled, echoing strangely against the stone. After several minutes, he slowed the horse and led them into a hidden alcove behind a large rock formation. The space was just wide enough to conceal them from above. "We rest here for a moment," he said quietly. Mara slid down from the saddle, landing carefully on unsteady legs. She leaned against the rock, breathing hard. Cole tied the horses loosely so they could drink from a small water pool hidden among the stones. The animals lowered their heads gratefully. For a while, neither of them spoke. Finally, Myra looked up at him. "You knew exactly where to go," Cole shrugged lightly. "Spent enough years out here, you learn where to hide when storms come." She smiled faintly at that. He crouched near her, studying the remaining cuff. "Can we remove the other one now?" "Yes," she said, pulling the ring device from her pocket. "But it takes energy, and if they get too close, it might alert them." Cole thought for a moment. "Then we watch first." He stepped toward the edge of the alcove and carefully peeked out. The sky above the canyon glowed faintly as several lights moved back and forth, searching but not descending into the narrow space. "They lost us for now," he said. Myra activated the ring again. The soft blue glow filled the small hiding place, reflecting off the stone walls. She held it over the remaining cuff. The metal band responded instantly, glowing brighter. A low humming sound filled the air. Mara closed her eyes, concentrating. Cole watched carefully, keeping his rifle ready. The cuff vibrated slightly, then clicked. A thin line appeared along its surface. Mara gasped, her breath shaking. "Almost," the ring pulsed again. A sharp flash of light filled the alcove. The cuff split open and fell away. Mara stared at her free wrist, disbelief and relief mixing in her expression. She let out a quiet laugh that sounded almost like a sob. "I'm free," she whispered. Cole nodded, feeling a strange sense of victory despite the danger still around them. "That's one less problem." She flexed her hands slowly, as if relearning how to move without restraint. "Now they won't track me directly," she said, "but they'll still search for the devices." Cole leaned back against the rock. "Then we need a plan." Mara hesitated before speaking. "There's an old research station not far from here, hidden in the mountains. If we reach it, we can activate the technology safely." "What does it do?" Cole asked. "It creates a protective signal," she explained. "A shield that stops people like them from controlling frontier worlds. That's why they want it." Cole absorbed that quietly. He had never thought of his ranch as part of something bigger than survival. But now the desert felt smaller, connected to something far beyond. "And after that?" he asked. She looked at him carefully. "After that, I won't need to run anymore." Before he could respond, a distant roar echoed through the canyon. Both of them looked up. A larger ship appeared above the ridge, its lights brighter than the others. It moved slowly, scanning deeper into the canyon. "They brought reinforcements," Mara said quietly. Cole stood. "Then we move now." They mounted quickly and continued deeper through the winding paths. The canyon narrowed, forcing them to ride single file. The sky above disappeared almost completely, replaced by towering rock walls. As they rode, Mara began explaining more about her past. How she had been trusted to transport the devices, how betrayal forced her to flee, and how she had chosen this remote world because it was far from the main travel routes. "I didn't expect anyone to help me," she admitted. Cole glanced back briefly. "You showed up at my gate, that means something." She looked surprised. "What?" he shrugged. "Maybe fate, maybe luck." She smiled softly at that. Suddenly, a bright beam shot down into the canyon ahead of them, blocking their path. Dust rose into the air as a machine descended slowly, cutting off the route. Cole pulled the reins hard, stopping just in time. Mara's eyes widened. "They predicted us." Cole turned quickly, scanning the canyon walls. Another light appeared behind them. "We're boxed in," she said. Cole's gaze moved rapidly across the terrain until it settled on a narrow ledge climbing upward along the rock face. "Hold tight," he said. He guided the horse toward the ledge. The path looked impossible, barely wide enough for a single animal, but it was their only chance. The horse hesitated, then climbed carefully, hooves scraping against stone. Below them, the machines shifted position, lights scanning upward. Mara held her breath as they climbed higher and higher. One wrong step could send them falling. Finally, they reached the top of the ridge. The open desert stretched beyond, wide and dark. Cole urged the horse forward, pushing into a full run. Behind them, the machines rose quickly, chasing again. Mara looked ahead and saw distant mountains silhouetted against the sky. "That's where the station is," she said. Cole nodded. Then that's where we're going. The chase continued across the open land, faster and more dangerous than before. But something had changed. Mara was no longer just a frightened traveler. She sat straighter in the saddle, her eyes focused, determination replacing fear. And Cole no longer felt like a man protecting a stranger. He felt like a man riding towards something bigger than himself, a fight that could change more than just one life. The mountains grew closer with every stride. And somewhere ahead, the final confrontation waited. The mountains rose before them like silent giants, jagged peaks cutting into the night sky. Cole urged his horse forward, every muscle taut with effort. Mara clung tightly to the saddle, her eyes fixed on the dark silhouette of the abandoned research station ahead. It looked small and fragile from this distance, a lone structure in a sea of stone, yet it held the promise of safety and power. Behind them, the machines that had been hunting them all night pressed closer, their lights stabbing through the darkness. The hum of their engines grew louder, vibrating in Cole's chest with each beat of his horse's hooves. He glanced back once and saw the glow of dozens of devices, some flying, some hovering near the ground, all converging toward their position. "We're not out of this yet," Cole said, his voice low but steady. Myra tightened her grip on the ring device, her free wrist now bare. "We'll make it," she replied, though her voice carried a tremor of fear. "We have to. This station is the only place the devices can activate safely. If we fail—" She didn't finish the sentence. Cole understood. Failure meant not only losing themselves, but letting the machines seize the technology, which could put countless lives at risk. Cole guided the horses down a narrow ravine, using the rocks as cover. The canyon walls were steep and unforgiving, but they were an advantage too. The machines above hesitated, unable to navigate the tight path without risking collision. "Just a little further," he whispered. "We can do this." Mara's horse stumbled slightly, and she leaned forward to steady it. "They're faster than I expected," she said. Cole smirked, though he didn't let his eyes leave the path ahead. Out here, speed doesn't always matter. Knowledge does. Finally, the ravine opened into a small plateau. Before them stood the research station, a squat, metallic building with antennas rising like jagged teeth. Its outer walls were scratched and worn, evidence of years abandoned in the mountains. But the station had power. Faint lights flickered along the walls, hinting that the old systems still held life. Cole dismounted first, pulling Mara down behind him. "Stay low," he instructed. "We make it inside without being seen, and then we can activate the devices." Mara nodded, her face pale but determined. "Right." They crept forward, moving behind boulders and shadows. The machines hovered above the plateau, scanning every inch. Cole held his breath as a searchlight swept dangerously close. Myra froze, gripping the ring tightly. For a tense moment, neither moved, and then the light passed. Cole motioned for her to follow. They slipped through the side entrance of the station, a narrow door hanging on rusty hinges. Inside, the air was cool, smelling of metal and dust. Old cables hung from the ceiling, and panels lined the walls, most of them dark. But in the center of the room was a large console, wires connecting to a strange metallic platform that looked like it had been waiting for the devices all along. "This is it," Mara whispered. "The activation station?" Cole glanced at her. "Then let's get it done." Myra stepped forward, placing the 3 devices onto the platform. Blue lines pulsed across the metal, matching the glow of her ring. The room hummed with energy as the systems detected the items. Cole watched the doorway nervously. "We don't have much time." "They'll figure out where we are soon." Mara nodded, taking a deep breath. "I know." She activated the ring one last time. Light surged across the platform, and the devices began to interface with the station. Panels lit up along the walls, revealing intricate circuits and holographic displays. Outside, the machine sensed the surge immediately. Engines roared and lights turned toward the station. "They know," Cole muttered. Myra worked quickly, aligning the devices. Almost there. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the entrance. One of the machines had landed, its metallic claws scraping the ground. Cole raised his rifle, ready to defend the station. Myra stayed focused on the platform. The machine advanced, lights blinding. Cole fired a warning shot. Sparks flew, but it didn't stop. "Keep going," he shouted to Mara. "We have seconds." Her hands moved swiftly, guided by both fear and determination. The blue glow of the devices intensified, forming a shield over the station that pulsed outward. The machine screeched as the energy hit it, forcing it backward. Sparks flew, metal groaning. Cole and Mara ducked as the light expanded. Outside, the remaining machines encountered the same force. The energy wave rolled over the plateau like an invisible wall, pushing them back. Their lights dimmed, engines sputtering. "It worked," Mara exclaimed, her voice trembling with relief. "The signal, it's active." Cole lowered his rifle slightly, watching the machines retreat. "Not for long, we need to finish." Mara adjusted the devices one final time. The platform glowed brighter, casting the room in pale blue light. The station hummed with life, and outside, the energy shield extended beyond the plateau, creating a protective barrier. The machines could approach no further. Cole exhaled, letting the tension drain from his shoulders. "That should keep them away for now." Mara smiled faintly. "It's more than enough. The shield will protect nearby settlements too." Cole looked at her, realizing how much she had endured. Fear, betrayal, running, yet she had never given up. "You're stronger than I thought," he said quietly. She glanced at him, eyes softening. "You kept me alive. That counts for something too." A long silence followed as they watched the glowing barrier outside. The machines retreated into the night, unable to reach them. The hum of their engines faded into the distance. Cole stepped closer to Mara. "What now?" he asked. She hesitated. "I could go back to my people. They'll want the devices returned, and I'm finally safe." Cole nodded slowly. "And if you stay?" Mara smiled faintly, looking at the station and then at him. "Then I keep helping. We protect the frontier together." Cole felt a strange weight lift from him. For years, he had lived alone, avoiding people and danger alike. Now he realized that the fight wasn't just about survival, it was about purpose. And he wasn't alone anymore. Outside, the first hints of dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and orange. The desert looked peaceful again, though Cole knew it was only temporary. Challenges would come, but they would face them together. Mara turned to him, holding the remaining device safely. "We should prepare for the next wave. Others will come eventually." Cole smiled faintly. "Then we'll be ready. They won't get past us again." Together, they moved through the station, checking the consoles and reinforcing the shield. Every system hummed in harmony with the devices, and the energy barrier stretched farther, covering more of the valley and nearby settlements. Hours passed, and the desert grew brighter with the rising sun. The air smelled fresh, carrying the scent of earth and stone. Cole and Mara stepped outside to look at the plateau. The machines that had hunted them were nowhere in sight. Only the wind whispered through the rocks. "You did well," Cole said quietly, looking at Mara. "And you," she replied. "You never gave up even when it seemed impossible." Cole shook his head. "I didn't do it for me. I did it because it had to be done." Mara nodded, understanding. "Sometimes that's enough." The sun rose higher, casting long shadows over the desert. Horses grazed peacefully, and the plateau looked almost serene. The station stood tall, a beacon of safety and hope. Cole turned to Mara. "What will you do now?" She smiled softly, holding the devices. "I'll help people." "Make sure this never falls into the wrong hands again." Cole nodded. "Then I'll stay too. Out here we can watch the valley, keep it safe." Mara glanced at him, then at the horizon. "It won't be easy," Cole smirked faintly. "Nothing worth doing ever is." Together they looked over the desert. The night had passed and the danger had been faced. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, Cole felt that uncertainty was something he could face. Not alone. The desert was quiet, the machines had retreated, and the rancher who had lived alone for so long now had someone by his side. Mara adjusted the devices, ensuring the shield remained strong. Cole watched the sunrise, the light spilling over the plateau, and felt a strange sense of peace. He had protected more than just a stranger that night. He had helped safeguard the future. And as Mara turned to him with a faint smile, he knew that the desert, the ranch, and their lives had changed forever. They would face the unknown together, ready for whatever came next. For the first time in years, Cole Mercer felt truly alive.